Being in Malaysia is not foreign to me. I actually lived here from age 5 to 10 or so for 5 years. My dad was a cardiothoracic surgeon in Korea at that time, and 40 Korean physicians came to Malaysia as part of providing healthcare. And they didn't locate them in Kuala Lumpur or Johor Bahru or Penang. They went to, so I live in a small town, Kanga, as many of you know, at the borders close to Thailand during the peak of the Vietnam War. I think Kanga was about 70,000 in population, and I vividly remember at my elementary school days. Never saw my dad. He was the only physician who could practice primary care and surgery at the same time. So as we go forward, what I remember of Malaysia back then was Malaysia was a very resourceful country. I think the natural resources of rubber, tin, you know this better than I do, were one of the leaders in the world. And what I've seen from afar, other than a short family visit about 8 years ago, visiting the second city I lived in, Seramban, which is just down the road, the emergence of the economy and technology in Malaysia the last 40, 50 years has been truly amazing. I saw that as a Korean American in South Korea, one of the poorest countries in the 60s and 70s, post-tragedy of Korean War, and has gone now to the 11th largest economy. And if you look at how both societies have done this, whether it's South Korea or Malaysia and and many of the surrounding countries, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, is education and higher learning and learning, whatever field you're in. And of course, healthcare is one of the major platforms. If you look at getting into technology for the theme of this conference, this data is actually available in Google or in your internet. If you look at the evolution of mankind, Homo sapiens, about 250,000 years of duration. If you look at the average lifespan, 200,000 years ago, average men lived 25 years, for all the reasons you know about. 1840, around a bit before the Civil War in America, the average lifespan of an American man was 45. That was shocking to me. Many of you have seen the movie Lincoln. You see a lot of elderly people walking around. That was probably bad production by the movie industry. So if you look at the average lifespan now woman is higher than men in most countries. If you're from Japan or South Korea, the average life expectancy now is 91 if you're born now in those countries. Man is a little behind. So if you look at the reasons of how we have lived longer, if you normalize it for the usual famine that Javed Sheikh mentioned, wars, infection, you take all that out. For from 200,000 years ago and 1840, it took us 10,000 years to increase our life expectancy by 1 year. Not that life expectancy is the only criteria of health care quality, but it is a major metrics. From 1840 to now, it's taking us about 5 years to increase 1 year. And if you look at what has transformed that, it's all through research and now technology going forward. So, in terms of technology and healthcare, I don't pretend to be an expert in this area, but as dean of a vibrant medical school at Weill Cornell, you have to actually then really get into the game. Let me give an example. Cornell University, an Ivy League university in Ithaca, New York, opened up a third campus. The first campus is, of course, the university of 150 years ago. 120 years ago in New York City, they opened up Weill Cornell Medical College, now called Weill Cornell Medicine. And 5 years ago, they opened up a third campus called Cornell Tech. It was temporarily housed in the Google building in Midtown, New York. But about 18 months ago, at the Roosevelt Island, those of you who know New York City, is a small island on the East River. Generally not a very vibrant sector, but now with Cornell Tech being housed there, we at Weill Cornell Medicine is really ramping up to leverage the technological school just across the river to increase the quality and expand our healthcare system. If you look at Cornell Tech, and this is not a plug for Cornell Tech, but if you look at the great engineering schools, MIT, Caltech, Georgia Tech, and many others, it was really a response to the Industrial Revolution. How do we prepare our society? How do we train the next generation of engineers in response to the Industrial Revolution? If you look at Cornell Tech, it's the first technology school in the 21st century post-genomic era, and how do we respond to the advances? And I think going forward, you'll see many technology schools and new schools to take advantage of that. So just give an experience of what we're doing while Cornell Medicine. In fact, we have a medical school in Doha, Qatar, formed 17 years ago now, and Dean Sheikh is just doing an absolutely fantastic job running the medical school at Doha, Qatar. It's been a model school. The reason why I mention this now is that without technology, I don't think we were able to accomplish what we've done in the first 16, 17 years, and we have just started. Yes, we have faculty going from New York City to Doha, Qatar, about 70 faculty or so every 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever the time period is. But because of technological advancements, whether it's old-fashioned video conferencing, podcasts, but going forward, we plan to really leverage the technological advancements in whether it's simulation, robotics, AI, all the things you heard about by Victor Zhao, Java Sheikh, and others. So we are really leveraging that. We also have a global health program that's very robust, so that's many schools. For example, let me give you an example how technology is really advancing our healthcare delivery. So we have 2 prominent programs in Haiti and Tanzania. I'll just give you one example. So we had a student who came up with an app of teaching midwives provide prenatal care in U.S. first. Midwives is still very common and popular in the U.S., even in New York City. Just downtown Manhattan, we have a huge midwife program. That app was edited and modified for the midwives in Tanzania, where our global health professionals are. And it was just, I don't have my iPhone in front of me, but it was just a very easy download to an iPhone, and I've seen it actually, and they're providing critical care to prenatal care in Tanzania, in the most remote areas in Tanzania. Technology doesn't have to be expensive. This app is very cheap, very user-friendly, very trainable, and so forth. So to give you just one specific example. So as we go forward, there are many experts in the room here going forward with robotics, AI. We've heard many statistics. I think it's the most exciting time in healthcare delivery in the world. I would like to finish, though, in terms of, and during our round table discussions, panel discussion, we'll talk about this, is how we maintain the humanity of medicine going forward. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm not up to speed in technological advancements, but I think that's a critical issue. Let's just take an example of teaching anatomy to students. When I was growing up, like many of you in the room, we started with dissection, then now prosection, for many other reasons. But now with the advancements in medical imaging, you saw clips of that in one of the videos that Dean Java Sheikh showed. Absolutely, you can teach our students, I think, better and precise anatomy of any organ by using the medical image. It's fantastic. However, do we, just even at the fundamental anatomy, where patient is not even alive, do we lose that connection to the patient? If you go even more during a clinical training, yes, We have more advancements now in technological areas, big data, electronic medical records, but we also know the downsides to that. An average intern in US spends 39 minutes a day with a patient in their 12-hour shift. Just imagine that. Less than 1 hour, the intern is in a patient's room. What is the intern doing the rest of the time? By the computer. Whether it's record keeping, whether it's orders, whether it's looking up information, medical knowledge, and all the rest. It's not bad, but we have to somehow, I think, manage this through. How do we navigate that going forward? The humanity of medicine is so critical. Because at the end of the day, the Hippocratic Oath that most Western schools do, and I think it's throughout the world, if it's not called a Hippocratic Oath, it's called something else, really outlining the responsibilities of a physician to a patient. We are at risk of losing that if we do not navigate smartly and humanly in the technological era. So I'll end my remarks here, and I'm looking forward to interacting with all of you. And again, thank you for welcoming me back to Malaysia. Thank you very much.